Right, here we go. Oh, starting on the wrong slide. Let's make you big. Right, so we're going to go through the menstrual cycle this evening and how it can affect your training. What I'm also going to touch on is the differences between a natural cycle and a synthetic cycle as such. Because if you are on hormonal contraception, then that can obviously be completely different to a woman that is obviously just not. And also perimenopausal, we'll touch on that as well at the very end, because at some stage, I mean, some of you might even be there. I know some of the women in the program are, or they might watch this back and it be helpful. But at some stage, all of us will be there. So it's probably just worth learning at this point anyway. So there are two phases to our menstrual cycle as women. So there's the follicular and the luteal phases. So I think Sarah, when she watches this back, if you've got a Whoop, which is a piece of wearable technology, it can actually track your cycle. There are probably other ones that do it on the market as well. I've got a Whoop. For anyone that's really interested in taking all of their learnings, it will track your recovery, it will track your sleep, it will tell you which phase you're in within your menstrual cycle as a woman as well. So there are things that you can have on you that actually do this sort of thing for you. I mean, I think the Whoop costs, I can't remember what it is. It's about 30 quid a month. So it is like an ongoing subscription. But the longer you have it, the more data that you can obviously collect and the more it starts to read and understand your body. But so the red part on the left, iconic color, obviously, is it's reflecting your bleed. So this is for I'm going to assume a 28-day cycle. I'd say I am pretty much a 28-day cycle, but for some of you ladies, it might be slightly longer, it might be slightly shorter. Every body, every woman is completely different, but this is the standard length of cycle that most women obviously go through. So this is your average 5-day bleed. And as you're coming out of your cycle, this is basically the hang on, give me a second. This is your follicular phase, which is where you're going to be in an upwards trajectory. So that's what this yellow line is signifying. And that is going to be your max strength zone. So you'll notice at the beginning of your cycle, so where you're bleeding for the first couple of days. So I'm on my period at the moment. I think today is day 2. And I sure as shit did notice in my training session this morning that it wasn't amazing. It wasn't great. I was able to give everything I had to RDLs, then hip thrusters. I was actually quite a lot down, but I didn't have a great night's sleep last night. I think I only got about 5.5 hours. Mondays are a long day for me and I went to bed too late. So a combination of being on my period, not having enough sleep meant I was about 30 kilos short on my hip thrusters to where I was last week, that's quite a big difference. So you will notice it in your training, and it doesn't matter whether you're training at home or in the gym, you will notice that your strength does start to, when you're on your cycle, it's quite low at the beginning, but then as you move through your period and when you're on kind of day 3 onwards, so for me, it will be around tomorrow, I'll start to notice that over the next kind of 12 days or so, that I am in my strength phase of my cycle. So this is when you can really start to push. So if you do bleed and have a natural cycle, this is where you can kind of read your body and go, right, okay, I'm coming out of the back end of my cycle now. I've got a window where I can just push significantly higher. So that's when you will really notice that. So I'll move on to the next one so it shows it a little bit clearer. So this is basically your estrogen levels during your follicular phase. And it's the estrogen rise that's taking place organically within our bodies that are increasing that energy. They're increasing your strength potential. Your motivation is a lot higher. So again, it's about learning to read your body and going, right, okay, these are the windows of opportunity where I'm going to be able to push that much harder. And that's where we really want to be doing that when we absolutely peak in this first 14 days following our period. So these PBs, you're likely to be able to hit in this window of opportunity. And then what starts to happen is on that day 14 onwards, you enter your luteal phase, which is the last kind of 2 weeks of your cycle. So this is where your progesterone starts to increase, and you're going to notice you feel a lot more sluggish. You're going to struggle a little bit more. You might feel a bit more fatigued. The water retention, that's usually climbing the water retention as you're leading up to your cycle. So you will notice that you do have a slightly lower tolerance for being able to push that much harder in the gym. Now, I think again, if the one thing I will say is if your sleep is on point, if your nutrition is good, all of these things, then you might not actually notice it too dramatically, but you will. I still think you do, generally speaking, notice this. I know exactly when my body's ready to push and when I need to pull back a little bit, or I don't even need to pull back. I just physically cannot do as much. Like I had it the other week as well, where you'll have probably all seen it on my stories, where I was able to do, what was it? I think it was like 16 kilo dumbbells in each arm for bench press. And then a week later, I was like, yeah, that's not happening. And I had to drop back. And I just, again, I physically, like, you can't push beyond the realms of what your body is going to be capable of, but you still want to drive as hard as you can. So there are coaches out there that will say you should cycle sync. You may have even seen this on Instagram, and I personally don't believe in it. So the concept of this would be that, like, you would start your program in your cycle where you're at your most weakest. So for the first 2 weeks in your program, you're going to be a little bit weaker. And then what you would do towards the end of your program, the last 2 weeks, you really push for those PBs. But the reality is, again, so many other things can determine, like I said earlier, with the poor sleep, poor nutrition, you might just not have time on certain days to be able to do certain things. So all of these things can impact. So if you tried to cycle sync, it would be so difficult. And inside a program like this, you might join on the 16th of October and you just might naturally be in your strong part of your cycle. It's like, it's too difficult to be able to determine. You would literally all be all over the place. And I just don't think, for me, it's all about pushing yourself to your maximum capability despite where you are in your cycle, and just genuinely trying to make the best of your gym sessions, but also just accepting that when you're logging into the app and you're moving through the weeks, sometimes you might actually want to start a phase a bit stronger, and you might not then hit a PB towards the end of the phase. Obviously, in that final week, we want to be training close to failure or to failure to really get the most out of the strength training. But your failure might look completely different week to week. Now, there's not always, like I say, a huge amount in this. I think that completely depends on everything. But the healthier we can keep our bodies, the less likely those like strength cycles will show up as much. And again, your mindset, it's about having that mindset of going in there, going, right, we're going to be adaptable. We're going to be focused. We're going to do what we can do and just push to our maximum potential as women. Like, we can't do a huge amount about this. Do you know what I mean? It's another thing. Men don't have to deal with any of this shit. And it's just another side of being a woman. But this is it. And progress over perfection. It doesn't really matter where your cycle falls. We can still have really strong weeks and then maybe weeks where it's just not going to push as much for us. But it's that actually getting it done is same as me this morning. I thought, yeah, I'm not going for any PBs, but I'm okay with that because I will get, do you know what I mean? The next 12 days are probably likely to be really good for me. So the back end of this week, next week, I will push to see how hard I can go. And that's just about accepting it is what it is. So if you are taking contraception, now I'm specifically talking about hormonal contraception because, for instance, if we take the coil, there are two versions of the coil. So there's the copper coil, which I used to have because I am almost pretty much allergic's not the right word, but they basically thought I had cancer for about 12 months just because of all the different contraceptions they kept putting me on. And it reacted really badly to my body. And this is it. So you might be on contraception, but it might not be hormonal. Or you might be on the hormonal type of contraception. You guys will probably know that depending on what pill you're on, what coil you're on, whether you've got the implant. Again, that's a hormonal based contraception. But these are synthetic forms of estrogen and progesterone. So the body's natural hormonal cycle is almost effectively overridden. So it's not the same as somebody that is genuine. So like at the minute, I'm not on any type of contraception in that form, and I wasn't before. So my cycle is my cycle, whereas for anyone on contraception, that will be completely different for you. So you're basically suppressing ovulation. That's what it is. So it's stopping that releasing the egg from the ovaries. And because that doesn't incur the natural fluctuations that you would see with a natural cycle are not going to be there in the same way. So it's just a little bit more suppressed and it's keeping you at kind of an even keel. So you're not going to get that peak and dip like you would do on a natural cycle. So you guys are, in essence, I mean, it's probably a good thing. Do you know what I mean? You're going to be able to push pretty much all month round. I love the fact you're cycling, aren't you, Victoria? That is a win.
I'm walking.
Oh, you're walking. Get her steps in. I can
Steps
see you
in.
doing this.
Sorry.
I thought you were on a bike. I love it. And either, what a great way of getting steps in. That is serious commitment to the course. I love it. But yeah, so you're not getting that same rise and fall in the hormones with the follicular and the luteal phases. So it is a little bit different. So you are getting more consistent levels. So even if you don't back to back your pill and you actually still get a synthetic cycle, it's not the same. You're not naturally ovulating. So it's just a withdrawal bleed. So even if you bleed, it's not quite the same. So again, you shouldn't expect as much variation as somebody that is following a natural cycle. So you're not going to get the dramatic shifts in energy performance in the same way. But that being said, there are still changes and developments that do happen within somebody, even on a hormonal contraception. So you can still get the water weight retention. You can still find that your energy does move up and down a bit. It's usually just not as dramatic. Like you can literally put on up to 5 kilos of water weight as a woman coming into her natural period. Like it can be quite an eye-opening amount. And when you're not prepared for that and you come into this process and you're thinking, oh my God, my weight hasn't shifted. And it, like I say, it can still happen if you are on the pill or other forms of hormonal contraception, but it probably wouldn't be as dramatic for you guys. So it's just a consideration. So training impacts for perimenopausal women. So this is significantly more challenging because it's almost like your body is fighting against you. And this is where your estrogen and progesterone levels, they are fluctuating completely unpredictably. So you're not following that same 28-day rise and fall like somebody that is just in a normal cycle who is not going anywhere near the menopause. So it can lead to random fluctuations of high intensity and then high fatigue. So you've almost just got to assess your body day to day. And it is a little bit harder to then navigate. There's no natural structure of what's going on inside your body. It's just your body's way of trying to adapt and obviously go through that phase of life that, like I say, all women, and it can affect women of all ages pretty much. It can be down like in your 30s. I think some women even can go through it in their 20s. So it's just worth being mindful of. If this is you, then obviously the doctors can actually prescribe things to try and help with this. And there's no shame in doing that, just to make that completely clear that if you do feel like you're perimenopausal and you do feel like you're really fighting your own body to get through an average day, then I would definitely seek out a professional and see what they might be able to actually support you with. But this is where you've got to be flexible. You've got to learn to read your body and try and push and pull on the right days But again, if you need to take a day off training, take a day off training. If you need to switch over your rest days, switch over your rest days. But the closer we get to being perimenopausal slash menopausal women, it becomes even more paramount to start strength training. The argument would be that even as we reach our 30s, our bone density, it starts to decrease. And a lot of you guys, I will have had this conversation as you were on your way into the program as well. And again, in my content, I talk about it quite a lot. But men don't suffer with this as much as women. Again, it's just like the world's out to get us, isn't it? Like, God damn it. But this is just the organic process that we go through. The only way to caveat our bone density decreasing, and like I say, the older we get, the more rapid that process becomes. So you will experience seeing little old women where like they're trying to push open a door and they're really struggling, or like the number one reason for people going into a care home is because they can no longer get the strength to push themselves up off the toilet. It's that sort of thing. Guess what the activity is for getting off the toilet? It's a squat. Do you know what I mean? That's essentially the action you're doing. So you're all in the right place by actually prioritizing strength training. And I would argue, obviously, you're welcome to stay in this program for as long as you guys choose. We'd love to have you for as long as you want to be here. But even regardless of the point of you leaving, you do not want to drop strength training. You ladies are obviously, you're learning all about it. You're understanding how to move your bodies. You need to now keep this up for life, because it's our job to try and reverse this aging process as much as we physically can. And the only number one way of doing that, obviously looking after your health and fitness in general, but strength training, if you want to be able to move around when you're 70, 80, 90, this is going to be vital for you. So my advice is keep it going for the rest of your lives, basically. At some level, this is obviously going to serve you. So, does anybody have any questions on this evening's training? Hang on, let me come back to my Zoom. Oh, there's someone in the chat. Why didn't you let the dogs clear at the Cocoa Pops? They weren't interested. Not at all. So Cavaliers are well known for being very fussy. So I even gave them a treat earlier. It sat on the top. We went to that event thing yesterday, and it's like these homemade dog muffins with like a sausage buried in the middle. All Spencer did for 5 hours was guard it. And I had to take it off him because he wouldn't even go out to the toilet because he couldn't guard his muffin. And I was like, this is getting out of hand now. Like, you need the toilet. So yeah, they're just, I mean, I don't really like Cocoa Pops either, so I don't blame them, but bit of fun, isn't it? Bit of fun. So this is your opportunity. Any questions about training around your cycle, perimenopausal, hormonal contraception, or anything in general? If obviously you're new, you might have questions about how to do certain things, or nutrition, or scanning, or it could literally be anything. Now is your window of opportunity. And we've got Kat on as well. So if anyone wants to ask Coach Kat anything, she is available to answer any questions.
I always seem to ask a question, but
go for it. Get your money worth, you know.
I mean, obviously I was away last week, but I did one of my workouts and then didn't do the others. So today, when I've done half of one, because of what my son decided to do to me, it was the Wednesday one. How dare he interrupt my training? But anyway, I did the Wednesday session on Monday because that was where I'd finished off. But it's driving me insane that I'm doing Wednesday on Monday and I'm going to do Friday on Wednesday. Can I just repeat Wednesday and just get myself back on track?
Yeah, I would have done that. So in that instance, and that's a really good question, by the way, I would have written off the days that you were away last week. I would have just written those days off. I would have done Monday as you'd done it. And then I would have just come back into this week, having done Monday again today, then do Wednesday on Wednesday, Friday, or whatever days of the week you want to train.
I did nearly do that, but I really like my Wednesday workout. So I thought, oh, I might get that one in twice.
That's the only caveat I was going to say. That is what I would also do. If I really like one session more, then I would probably be like, well, yeah, I'm going to do that one now.
But
yeah, there's no right or wrong. Obviously, it's like you can choose to do what you would do. But yeah, trying to get back to an even keel so you know where you're at is just slightly more straightforward. But yeah, if you want to prioritize the ones you enjoy, then that's fine too, because we want to enjoy what we're doing. Do you know what I mean? Especially if you're coming back from a little mini break, it's like, right, do the thing that you're actually going to want to do because it'll get you back into the swing of it quicker.
Yeah, fab. Thank you.
No worries. Any more for any more?
Has the Kahuna's app been updated? It's just that sometimes when you press things, it comes up with different messages than it did before, and a blue dot that I have no idea what it's meant to be.
Welcome to my life, Joe. The whole back end, I'm like, what even is this? Like, I used to be able to alphabetize all of you ladies so I could see everyone in order. Now you're all over the shop, and it's like, yeah, the stress. But that's just technology, isn't it? Everything gets updated. Annoyingly, I feel like unless you're 20 years old, it takes us longer to learn how to develop anything. What was I trying to do earlier? I was trying to do an online food shop. Online food shop. I didn't make it happen. I thought I'd made it happen. I put my card details in, I booked my slot, and then it said I had 45 minutes to commit. And there were no other buttons. And I was like, and I went in my banking app thinking, do I have to give permission to take my money? No. So I've still got no food. I was like, wonderful. And this is a cardo. I was like, I'm sure it's meant for like older, sophisticated women. I am clearly not one of those, but I was like, how is this difficult? So yeah, I feel like that's just technology, Joe, and it's just we just have to battle on through. But if there's anything specific that you are struggling with, screenshot me, and obviously I'll try and figure it out because I have a test account, so I can see everything you guys can see by going into a different side of it. But my side has all changed as well, so just expect the updates to keep coming. And in theory, it is bettering the app, but if you're like me, you don't like change. So anybody else? I feel like Pip, you look like you want to ask something. Or have you just got a is that just the way you look? You just look
I
inquisitive.
just gone onto the Cocoonus app to see if it had changed for me, but maybe I haven't updated it over
Yeah,
my side, so
it won't always update everybody at the same time. They and it also will depend if you're on Apple or Android as well.
that might make sense then.
The
Yeah.
developments will look different for everybody. Obviously they can't build it identically for both platforms, so they just do the best they can. Right, I think we're about there if everybody's good. I don't know who put that thumbs up, but you're way better at tech than I. Did I? Oh no, I did it. I did that. Oh my God, see, I'm not meant to be here. I have no idea what's going on. Right, well, peace out, ladies. Have another absolutely fantastic week. You always know where we are if you need any of us. So yeah, enjoy, and I will catch you later in the week.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye bye.